James in a long time, but I guess it's something like this. No, of course I'm joking. I know James is probably the fittest person in camp. Ah, there we go. Kirsten says, oh, I thought it was James on camera for a second. Of course, we love him dearly. We just like teasing him. My brother last night reminded James that he'd known him for 19 years. James was my brother's cricket coach when he was in his first year at high school. So yeah, it's quite a small world. You don't realize often. And the safari industry itself is very small. A lot of us have known each other for a long, long time. Well, I mean, just think, well, Scotty and I know each other from school. My brother and Scott were in the same class or same year at school. So they knew each other from school as well. And James was my brother's cricket coach and Scott's rugby coach when he was a student teacher at Hilton College. Kirsten very cheekily just said the year was 1985. It's not. The year was 1999, I think. 1999, somewhere around there. Strangely enough, while James was at Hilton, I was there, but I didn't know him because I was a bit older, so we didn't have interactions with the stooges, as we used to call them. He didn't coach me any sport. But yes, it is a funny old world. Now, strangely enough, when I left the Sabi Sands, in Londolozi, I can't remember, it was 2009 probably, somewhere around there. I said, oh, I'll never work in the Sabi Sands again. Look where I am now, back in the Sabi Sands, obviously very different to what we used to do there. And never say never, I suppose, is a good life lesson. Amanda would like to know how old I am. The same age as Sebastian. I'm turning 35 this year. Yes. So I'm a year younger than Sebastian. We do have some... Who's the baby in camp at the moment? Taylor? No, Dave. Dave or Taylor, I think. Oh yes, of course. Alicia or Conrad are the babies in camp. I think, 23, 24, somewhere around there. Oh! Of course, the baby in camp at the moment is Casey, who's Sebastian's daughter, who's visiting us for the weekend. She keeps us all entertained. You can't lose Casey at night, though, because she's got a luminous pink nightgown. So, all of a sudden, you just see this bright pink flash running around in camp. You know Casey's about. No, she's very sweet. One of the most loving little girls you'll ever meet in your life. And no, so it's been a ride. But of course, now something I haven't done in an age, and I think everyone's going to be rusty. So I've got you. The nearly impossible tree quiz. Let's see how good you guys are. Now, this nearly impossible tree has been fed on by elephants. It has been manhandled and mangled, and it's got very big leaves. I'm trying to see. I was hoping there might be a fruit on it, but there isn't. Let me just double check. We can have a look around on the ground. No, there's no fruit on it, so it's going to be even tougher. The nearly impossible tree quiz. If you know the answer to this nearly impossible tree that has been ravaged by elephants over its years, remember #SafariLive. Not only has it been ravaged by elephants, it's been ravaged by the odd caterpillar as well. As you can see right through it. Now, while you think about what the nearly impossible tree is, let's go to one of the ravages of the nearly impossible tree with Steve.
Indeed, we have found a small breeding herd of elephants. I'm sorry, I might have sounded strange there. I was just given a small piece of chocolate just before you came to me, and it was still stuck in my mouth. We're back to normal, and the elephants are feeding. You can see they're right up against the guarri bush, and the shade of that tree. The elephants are looking for the buffalo grass, the Panicum maximum, that grows nicely in the shade there. Lots of foliage. It's parts of of grasses that aren't getting eaten, because the tree actually protects a little bit from the grazing animals such as impala and nyala. But the elephant, with their really long trunk, is able to get in there, into those bushes, and by the sense of smell, they're able to select exactly what they want in there. And you can see this time of year that they're trying to actually pull up the roots as well. They're trying to grab the entire plant, looking for the vegetative above ground matter, obviously the green vegetation, and then they also will try and feed on roots. But a little bit later in the season, you'll notice the elephants will be physically pulling up the plants and actually trying to get their roots themselves, because as soon as these grasses stop being green and photosynthesizing, they send most of their nutrients to their roots in response to fire and protection against fire during the dry season. And elephants are very aware of that, as it just smashes that small guarri bush out of the way effortlessly in their never-ending quest for a morsel of food. You can see when she flicks it, we're not there now, we're looking at the little youngster, but what she did there, so the split in the tusk, obviously we know that elephants use their tusks a lot to feed and to gouge into the bark of trees. Oh, look at that, she just smashed that. Cheers, guarri bush. And by using it again and again and again, eventually, you might just get a weakness in the tusk itself, and it will actually break. And that goes to show that she has been using that left tusk a lot. She might, I can't see the right one, but quite often you find elephants are left or right-handed in the way that they use their tusks. The right one looks a little bit less broken than the left. Maybe with this one breaking, it's forced her to use the other one more. Wisteria, it splits in the tusk, hurts, you wonder. It probably does initially. I mean, there's cases of elephants that are problem elephants, and when they eventually euthanize the elephant, they find out that there's a problem with its tooth or its tusk inside the actual cavity, and that caused the animal to go through an enormous amount of pain. And so what we thought was a crazed elephant just out to hurt people was actually just an animal in absolute agony with seemingly no way past the pain. So that is often the cause of it. I've never seen an elephant like that before, but there are many, many stories about it. Look how she's using her feet to smash that plant. And poor guarri bush. Poor guarri bush, madam. Now that she's finished with that one, she'll go to the next bush, where the grasses are greener underneath the tree once again. Fantastic, eh? Nice to see elephants on Djuma. Pangolin, how far into a tusk do the nerves go? Vildi, I'm just going to reverse around here and get those other ones that have come out into the clearing. So, I have actually removed a tusk before on an elephant. It was an elephant that was hunted, not by me, but where I was working. And we removed the tusk from the root. And the tusk was probably about as long as my leg, and the root was about that long inside. It was quite something to behold when it came out. But then also the root part, and a lot of the tusk is actually about that deep, probably inside the face, maybe that inside. Then the root goes probably about 6 inches, 12 inches, so about 12 inches, something about that. Really depends on the size of the elephant and the size of the tusk as well. That was a male elephant, the tusks that we had, and the root was enormous inside, but maybe about a fourth of the length of the tusk itself. But I don't know if that's normal, if that's how it always works. For example, this female here, her tusks are much smaller, and that youngster coming in behind just developing the beginnings of the tusks there. So there would definitely be a root inside, but very, very small, I would say. As this one is busy eating some grass. We see lots of grass eating this time of year before the dry season, and we're going to go quickly from our elephants that are eating their grass to Tlalamba eating some meat.
Well, look at that, everyone. This is what we've been waiting for. Now, Thandi has left the meat and allowed Tlalamba to move in and go and have breakfast. Now, she took quite a while to find where the steenbok was. She could smell it, but she couldn't see it. And she kept on going down and towards Mom and doing the contact calling, the little arr, arr. And Mom was looking quite irritated because she was probably like, no, it's up there. You just need to go and find it. Now off you go. Don't take a chance in taking it down the bottom, little one. You need to learn that these hyenas are around. It wasn't in a good spot to feed on there, so it's grabbed it and pulled it out. Still holding it though. Now this is very good news that little one's having a feed. Every feed counts, and every feed is going to mean that she's going to just grow that little bit more and have a little bit more of a chance of survival. So, fantastic. So the death of one means the life of another, and a big shame for the little steenbok, but it allows Thandi and Tlalamba to have a better chance at survival. And there's not going to be one single inch of that animal wasted, because they're going to eat as much as they can or as much as they want, and whatever's left is going to get scavenged on by jackals and hyena, and then whatever else is left from there will be decomposed by ants and all sorts of little arthropods. So nothing gets wasted out here. I think she might drop it, but she's doing pretty well at holding on to it. She hasn't pinned it in a fork or anything, so that steenbok's just staying up there by sheer tenacity of the little one holding it there. It's probably got its claws dug into it. I don't know if Mom's left it too much. It hasn't got too much meat left on it. Oh, the little one's going to have to get into all the little scraps there. I think the head is still intact, so there's still quite a bit inside that skull if they can access it. The little one won't really be able to break open the skull, I don't think, with the small mouth that she's got. Anna Marie, yes, well, leopards don't generally eat in the most comfortable positions, so I think they're quite used to it. And, well, as you can see here, they start doing it from a very young age. So I suppose you're only uncomfortable if you're not used to being uncomfortable. And look at Mom, she looks very comfortable over there, sleeping off her breakfast. Well, Tlalamba eats with a new kind of style, sort of almost upside down, hanging from the side of a tree. There's a style you can try at home. Try and eat breakfast, excuse me, while hanging in a tree. Yeah, it's just a shame, Davy was saying as well, it's a shame of the colours this morning. A little bit grey, not really getting nice contrasts with the sun poking through the golden light and so on. Well, but we're not going to complain. It's just that would have made it that much better. And, well, speaking of grey, let's head you on over to Steve for the meantime, with lots of grey animals.
The grey, gentle giants of the African savanna, the largest mammal on land, Loxodonta africana, the African elephant. And this is a beautiful small family with mum and consecutive years of daughters. I think they are both daughters. We'll cross the road now. Holly, age is tricky in elephants, especially with females. Males generally you can kind of estimate sort of a round ballpark figure. But when the baby fits directly underneath mum, still not touching her belly, then you know it's less than a year. And then slowly, consecutively, it gets bigger and bigger. I mean, I would estimate that this youngster that we see here is probably between the ages of 14 and 16. But then I'm not 100% sure. And then the other one is probably about between the ages of 8 and 10. But it's very, very hard, I mean, to identify them. There's a lot of genetics in play. But if you ever have an elephant skull, or you dart an elephant to do anything on it with regards to research or collar, you can actually take a fluoride paste and you can put it on their teeth, and you get a mold of the teeth, and you can age them quite accurately to within 2 years by the development of their molars inside the mouth. A lot of work has been done by Michelle and Steve Henley of Save the Elephants. I assisted with some of that many, many years ago. And that's quite a good indicator. And then also, if you can pluck one of those tail hairs off of the elephant, they, under a microscope, oh, sorry about that shot. Under a microscope, you can actually see the growth rings on the tail, which indicate the seasons, and good seasons and bad seasons. And with the tail hair, you can actually indicate accurately age an elephant, almost like the scoots on a tortoise. Marvelous. There they are underneath a giant weeping boerbean, feeding on vegetation. There's also a small termite mound, so the vegetation growing on there's probably got a sweeter taste than the surrounding vegetation. And a little fork-tailed drongo just above that one's head. They are wisteria. Elephants are majestic creatures. They are always very, very peaceful. And in the Sabi sands here, it's lovely to see them. We haven't seen them in some weeks. It's always nice to spend time with the elephant. She's just feeding on a false marula there. We know the false marulas love to grow out of termite mounds. And quite palatable. They're pretty much browsed upon and eaten by everything. But I have yet to see the fruit of a false marula. Like the marula, it is part of the mango family. So they produce very juicy fruits, but I still have never found one. In all my years in the bush, I've still not seen a false marula fruit. I think the birds get to them before we do. But my friend Dave, he assures me he's going to get me some at some stage. Very close-knit little family there. Constantly together, learning from each other what vegetation to eat, what trees to leave alone. And talking about trees and quizzes, let's go and see how Brent's getting along with his impossible tree quiz.
Ha ha! I told you I haven't been quizzing you on trees enough because no one's got it right yet. I'm going to have to give you a few hints. It's definitely not a monkey tree, Janet. It's definitely not. It's a relative of this little beauty right next to me. So it's got seeds that have 4 sides. And this little beauty is called a russet bush willow. Now, its leaves are much bigger, its fruit is much bigger. But, are they always big? That's the clue. That's the clue. Not a sycamore fig at all, Joy. We actually have very few fig trees on Djuma. Actually, let's go to Philemon's Dip. There's one there. So I'll go and show you what a fig tree looks like. But we don't have very many figs on Djuma. There's a couple of big ones on Chitwa. The road that runs opposite, so you got the dam here, like that, and there's a road that runs through the Mulwanini and up along the crest above the dam. There's some very big figs on that road, and that's where it gets its name. Shirombe Rombe is a fig tree in Shangaan. So Shirombe Rombe, it is not a Shirombe Rombe. I can think of about 5 only on Djuma, and most of them are right in the middle of the block. Oh, let's quickly go across to Ralph.
Oh, she's still moving. Well, look at this, everyone. A very good practice for this little Tlalamba. Getting those neck muscles and jaw muscles working nicely. She's been carrying the steenbok around in the tree. She nearly dropped it a minute ago, but she managed to catch it with some very stealthily skillful claws to the head of the steenbok. So it's not the best picture for anybody that's got a soft stomach, but very good practice for her to be doing this. And I'm sure that's part and parcel to what Mommy was trying to achieve. And look at that one claw just holding this entire animal up. Look at that. I think there might be 1 or 2 in the neck there as well, but that one's nicely showing there. Now she's having a good go at the ear. It's quite soft there. There we are. She's really doing an extreme breakfast feed, this hanging down the side of a tree trunk with a steenbok hanging in your one hand. There, trying to get it up a bit higher now. I think Mommy's watching on. Mommy's watching on. Yeah, pangolin. Yeah, it's probably not that tasty, the ear, but well, it's all part of the protein nutrient that they need. And Mommy looking quite irritated there, probably quite concerned that she's going to drop that, because if she drops that, I think you might find that those hyenas appear out of nowhere again. So if she does drop it, she'd have to hoist it back up quite quickly. And Mommy's just keeping a beady eye on her, making sure that she doesn't attract the hyenas back. Quite windy at the moment. I'm surprised there's not more hyena around, because when we were downwind of it, it's already smelling quite strongly. So it's amazing though. They were on the ground for a little while and those hyenas appeared from nowhere. Almost like they're just hanging on the fringes, waiting for any little mistake that these two might make. But Thandi obviously experienced enough to know that there are hyenas around. I think she did take it onto the ground. I thought initially to let the cub have a feed, but then she just went ahead and fed on it herself. Maybe she decided once she was on the ground, but she was actually quite peckish. She'll just have a bit of a bite. But, well, this youngster's really getting not much in terms of thick flesh. Yeah, she's really having to work those little teeth there to get at the meat on this steenbok. Well, it's also part of the learning process, where the meat is, and also if you get the remains of a kill, there's still accessible meat. You've just got to work it a bit harder than the gut and the hind quarters. But there's lots of meat on those legs. If I was her, I'd be going there. But maybe the tastier meat is up here by the head. Although I think she's just actually eating wherever she can at the moment. Oh, that was nearly a drop. Nola, they they generally will go for the legs a little bit later on in the feed. So there's still better, tastier and nutritious meat, around the neck, around the rump, and on the chest as well. So obviously, first and foremost, the gut with the lungs, the liver, the kidney, the heart. That's first prize, and what most predators, smaller predators especially, go for immediately. Because if they can get that and nothing else before hyenas or anything come and chase them off, well, they've done well, because it's so rich in protein. And then after then they go for the softer fleshy parts, being the rump, and it's normally close to where they would have opened it up in the bowel as well. And then later, then they go on to the head, because there's also the brains, which is probably smelling quite nice and also very rich in protein. So that's why it's going around the mouth area, the nose and everything. But it's actually because I believe that they're trying to get into to the brains. And now I think this little one, Tlalamba, is actually just getting in wherever it's soft, and just trying to get into anywhere where there's flesh exposed. So she probably doesn't really know that well which exact parts to go for. She's probably just getting into anything and learning as she goes. Where's the best part to feed, and slowly get into the juicy stuff and realize where the best parts of the body to feed on are. So Tlalamba and Thandi up a tree, and this is an African wattle. Let's head you on over to Brent and continue on that tree quiz.
Well, Ralph, it's a wattle that cries. It's a weeping wattle. Now, of course, it's a weeping wattle from the spittle bugs, a little insect that sucks sap of certain tree species and excretes it at such a rate that sometimes it feels like it's raining underneath them. So rain trees get their name from that, from spittle bugs, and so do weeping wattles. Hello, boys. All the little boys with no girlfriends, off they go. Shame. Next year, they all looked a bit young. So I gave away too many hints on the quiz there. Yes, James, you are correct. It is indeed the variable bush willow, Combretum calinum. Now, we've got quite a lot of different bush willow species here. So if we think about it, the most common is, of course, the red bush willow, and we've got the russet bush willow, the large fruited bush willow, the variable bush willow, the velvet bush willow, the river bush willow, and I think I'm forgetting one or two as well. There's a lot of bush willows. What are you shouting at, squirrel? There's a squirrel alarming, but we don't trust squirrel alarms. Normally it's for a slender mongoose or a bird of prey, but we're going to have a quick look in the river system here on our way to the fig tree. So while we do that, Steve is still with those great grey pachyderms.
Yes, I am indeed with the pachyderms, and they are slowly moving and feeding the entire time, but we don't have the best shots of them in the bushes here. The youngsters following close by Mum, and with Brent's impossible quiz, I'm not sure exactly how it went down, but it's interesting how we have to focus on the plants from a visible sort of spectrum. We're looking at the leaf structure and the shape, whereas elephants are smelling. I don't think they're looking at a tree and going, oh, I feel like a little bit of whatever this tree is today. They know exactly what they're feeding on by smell. So the youngsters will learn from a young age what is edible, what isn't edible, when to eat certain parts of the plant, and it's amazing that they won't eat poisonous plants because they're taught by their parents not to eat them, which I think is quite amazing. There's just a little bottom there behind the tree. We've still got the 3 elephant here. Jacob, I mean, things do happen. I mean, VM was just telling me yesterday, about a lions that killed an elephant in the Kruger. Hey, you don't know how old that youngster was. Yeah, VM had a few days off, and there's reports, and he got pictures of a couple lions that took a baby elephant. And my first question is, well, where was Mum? It's a very dangerous endeavor trying to attack a young elephant, because Mum is normally very vigilant, but who knows where she was, why the baby was on its own. But yes, if they're on their own, they can definitely fall prey and victim to all sorts of things. But generally the dynamics of the herd are way too protective to allow for any predators to take on a big elephant. There's much easier meat out there than something with a very big grumpy mom at its side. But in Savuti, there are records of very large prides of lion up there that actually hunt elephant, and they're looking for sort of lone young bulls. An elephant of that size there that you can see would be very, very well into that sort of pride structure. But those prides up to 45 animals. Watch some of the BBC stuff when they do documentaries on that, and it is absolutely frightening. Can you imagine filming lions hunting elephant with infrared, with no lights? And you've got prides of 30, 40. You see the Forksa Drongo, he's very attentive. Oh, look at that. The youngster's trying to grab the fruits of the sickle bush. There we go. We actually had a little bit of a Djuma burn last night, where we all made little arts and crafts, and we had a fire and we burned some things, and Sebastian and his wife Shan actually made some nice sickle bush decorations, and the seeds that he burnt, actually they burned really, really well. I think there's lots of oil in them. It was really, really nice. We had a fabulous evening last night. And this Forktail Drongo, as you probably know from the past, is sitting and waiting for the disturbed insect to move. You can see how it's looking at the ground. Any grasshopper or camouflaged bug that's sitting on the grass underneath the elephant's feet that gets moved, it'll quickly flap down and catch. Very energy efficient way of feeding. Just follow the elephants through the long grass. So it's all about food this morning from elephants and birds, and let's go back to Tlalamba, who is eating in a very funny position.
Yeah, she's really struggling there. But, a minute ago she had her legs also hanging down the back of that fork in the trunk, and she's still managing to keep it up in the tree, barely, but it's there. Hasn't fallen on the ground just yet. It's quite comical the way that she's just hanging in there and having a meal at the same time. See, they're working those carnassial shear, trying to cut that meat and skin away so that she can feed on it. There, it's working. Deb, if she had to drop this, I'm pretty sure the way that she's been carrying it around in the branches, I'm pretty sure she would be able to retrieve it. However, she might get scolded by Mom. I would probably tell her to hurry up. And Thandi might also be down in a shot to try and get it up as quickly as possible. But yeah, I don't think it would be the end of the world. It's just it would be better if she kept it up in the tree just to keep away those pesky hyenas, who also need to eat. But this little one just needs to hang on and hang in there and keep feeding. There, she's getting into the nice hind quarters now. Now she can get some meat. Look, she's almost getting a bit more excited. I think she's realized there's a bit more meat in that there. There we are. Not down the bottom part of the legs, but the top part, sort of around the hip area, where she's going to get nice juicy meat in there. I think we've one of the vehicles in front, I think, might have just gotten stuck. But we'll leave him to it for the time being. If he doesn't get out, I might have to go over and help him before he makes too much noise here right next to this sighting. Oopsie, I think he might be stuck. Cat, that's a good question. I don't know of any other caching type predators. I know of birds that do it, obviously, but for true large predators that we have in Africa, it's pretty much only the leopard that does this caching or taking their food up into a tree. With a lot of the other predators, they might push or take their kills immediately underneath bushes. But this is quite unique with the leopard, and why I believe is one of the reasons why they're so successful, because they are actually able to get up the trees, and they are so agile in the branches, and especially climbing up massive trunked marulas, which are, there's nothing else, there's no branches coming out from the trunk, sometimes up to 10 meters in the air, and at that point then they have lovely big secondary branches coming off the trunk, and they're then able to lie there and eat off of that. And this here being a wattle, as I said earlier, I think Thandi having chosen this just for sheer ease for the cub to move around and learn how to negotiate. It seems like it likes that position. It's quite strange. Sometimes we have weird habits. Maybe this one's going to land up liking to hang and eat Tlalamba. Maybe it's just this particular tree. Can't find a comfortable position. So wonderful. Still lots of meat on that little steenbok. And, well, they'll have to, they wouldn't survive long on a little steenbok like this. It's a half decent meal for this little cub. But Thandi's going to have to eat a lot more than that. So she could eat one of these maybe every 2 or 3 days, possibly. But she'd have to get something a bit bigger. Maybe an impala, maybe a duiker. Duiker a little bit bigger, they're probably double the size than a steenbok. Duiker a little bit better. Warthog also nice fat warthog would go down very well. And some like the Cape Mountain leopard, their predominant food source is baboons, because of the mountains that they live in, and in a lot of areas as well. Mapingubwe up in the northwest. Also, those leopards live in the mountains there, and the most predominant animal is baboons. So there's a real passionate hate relationship between baboons and leopard. It's almost like hyena and lions, because they interact a lot with each other. And while the leopards do take them out, but the baboons, if they can find a cub or if they find a vulnerable leopard, they'll kill it as well. And they'll come together as a troop and attack the leopards, almost in the same way as hyenas do with lions. It's quite similar, but with different species. He's found a little fork there now. Doesn't have to hang on to it anymore. Tlalamba, you're making heavy work of this. Oh, look at that branch. I don't know about that. This could land up being quite comical. She's got a bit of a seesaw going there now. So this is really extreme breakfast. I hope it's making you all hungry. I don't know, it's turning my stomach a little bit. But I think she's still trying to work out where is the best place to put this. Well, she's definitely working for her breakfast. I think if that was the idea, well, it's worked. She's definitely having to put all her skills and use her brain to think about what's going on here and try and get into. I think she's still hungry, but she just can't get it into a nice position. She can feed on it nicely. Snazzy, I agree with you. She does indeed have amazing balance. And yeah, I thought earlier that when she first went for the carcass and Thandi picked it up and they had a bit of an altercation there up in the branches, I thought they were both going to fall out. But that just shows how skillful they are in the branches, how their balance is so perfect and in tune. I don't think you can get a more skillful animal than, especially with these kind of skills, than a leopard. Tree climbing, balance. He's had a little bit, but I think she's a bit irritated with eating at great heights, hanging from a branch. Might have to go and have a rest. Maybe it was quite tiring, that eating like that. I wouldn't be surprised. She's having a look at it. I think she wants to go back for more. Kia, it's about that time now that this youngster is now feeding on meat. This is now, that whole process has begun of teaching the Tlalamba how to, okay, for now it's actually feeding on the meat, because that's the primary objective, getting the little leopard to eat meat protein only and get a taste for it and really want it. And then the tree climbing ability. What's going on now? What has she spotted? Oh, it's a little mongoose, dwarf mongoose. Speaking of hunting, maybe she thinks she can go and catch one of those. Well, good luck on that one, Tlalamba. Those little critters are going to spot you and work you out very quickly. I just saw one scuttling off as she jumped down. I think that might be what she's after. So that's one of the lessons she might have to learn as well, that the different prey species that she can actually potentially catch. And the dwarf mongoose is going to be a difficult one. But yes, to finish off that question, it's not going to be long, I believe, and Thandi is going to bring back some live prey. As Thandi is now stretching and starting to come down the branch, I wonder what's going on. Maybe she's going to go for more to eat, or maybe she's just going to go check up on what Tlalamba's getting up to. So it's nearly that time for her to bring back some live prey and get her practicing with that. And she could do it with something like that little steenbok that they've just had now. That would be a perfect size. So that's the exact kind of prey that Thandi is going to be probably looking for little Tlalamba to learn, both feeding on and learning to kill. So it won't be long. There I can hear the little dwarf mongoose now giving alarm calls. I think Tlalamba is stalking them through the grass. But I think they've now spotted her. There they go. Thandi's also spotted something. It's not impossible for Thandi to hunt again now, eh? A very small kill that for her. She could eat 3 of those quite easily. See how leopards also get quite irritated when there's any kind of alarm call. They almost want to get away from it immediately, or try to get rid of it, if there's any kind of go-away birds calling, or guinea fowl, and at the moment it's now these little dwarf mongoose that are calling at them. You can see how ears go sort of flat like that. It's an irritated kind of pose, that, with body language wise. And I put the ears down like that, and a little bit of tail flicking. That's real irritation. I think she's eyeing up that meat. There she goes. I'll watch the master at work. Show Tlalamba how it's done. She'll probably go and done it again, or is she going back down on the ground? Nope. Looks like she's going all the way down. Tempting fate with these hyenas. Back where she had it, when the hyenas stormed in. She's calling the cub. She's saying, come on, leave those pesky dwarf mongoose and come and get some food. We've already got here, you don't need to go looking for more. Give away our position like that. He's calling the cub. Tlalamba. Wow, everyone, I mean, I haven't moved from here this morning, and it's been wonderful. Thanks to Brent for finding this yesterday. And it's always nice, once you know that there's a leopard with a kill, you can pretty much guarantee coming back the next day that they're going to be there. Well, that's exactly what's happened. And now she's disappearing off. I think she's going looking for Tlalamba, who is just through on the other side there. I think it was Thandi marking. It's quick, they disappear in the grass, eh? You can just see her head there above the thick grass. She is still there. Not very clear though. Right, everyone, I'm just going to wait and see what happens here. Just maybe try and reposition, get a bit of view on them. And but I think Brent, I think he's smelt the egg and bacon. Let's see how he's going on his way back to camp.
Well, I'm striding. So I've got the posh gentleman walk going, you know, with the cane. No, we are definitely coming closer to camp. We're on our way across quarantine at the moment. I was hoping that the zebra or wildebeest might be here, but they are not, unfortunately. Oh, flower. Oh, delicious. Oh dear, no, I haven't. This is very cool. I actually didn't know these were even growing on quarantine. Sebastian, would you like a tattoo?
Yes.
No, you don't. It hurts. So you can actually tattoo someone with this. This is a plumbago, a wild plumbago. The white plumbago, which is indigenous to this area, is white. The garden plumbago that people cultivate as an ornamental plant in their gardens is blue. But there's some very cool things. If you get the roots from the plumbago, the sap is very, very... Look at that, isn't that funny?
Oh, wow.
So that's how it disperses. See, it's, I'm going to put a bit closer. You can see all the little sticky bits. So this is incredibly sticky. It gets onto your socks, your clothes, your shoes, onto Nyala's socks, and that's how they spread their seed, the sticky base. Now, as I was saying, the roots of this white plumbago was used in traditional tattoo making and scarring. You don't even need to add anything into it. Basically, you just wrap the root around in whatever sort of pattern you want, and you leave it there for a couple of hours, and the sap is quite noxious and it'll actually burn into the skin. So it's not really a tattoo, it's more of a burn, a marking that you can make, and it was used to make yourself look scary. Also, in certain in tribes, to make yourself look scarier, people would make little cuts in their faces and whatnot, and then a ground up part of that root was pushed into those cuts to make the scarring more prominent. I didn't even know they were growing there. That's a cool little find on quarantine. But it hasn't been a good year for flowers this year. The late rain has meant that there haven't been a lot of flowers. As I said, not a lot of flowers. There's a tiny little yellow ipomere. So part of the morning glory family. A creeping ipomere. There are lots of different morning glories. The one we know the most is the big purple one. But there we go, that's a tiny little yellow morning glory. Carol, yes, the plumbagos do have a scent. It's a pleasant scent. Not quite as nice as jasmine, but it is a nice scent. But as I said, it hasn't been a great year for flowers. My goodness. Well, we are getting a few flowers as we go back, and there's another one there. Oh dear, I've put my volume down too much, Kirsten. I didn't hear a word you said. Okay, now this is not the world's best flower because it is, of course, an exotic flower. It's from India. Oh, Seb, there's something in there. Where'd he go? Now, I always love checking, oh, it's disappeared, these flowers for yellow crab spiders that mimic the color of the flower, and they sit there, although it's quite windy. I think Seb is going to struggle, or we're going to struggle to find a yellow crab spider today. So it's a peanut butter cassia. It's an exotic from India that was brought across as an ornamental garden plant. You can see it's quite pretty, and it has become naturalized in a lot of areas, particularly in the Sabi sands. So, not originally from Africa, but there's pretty much nothing you can do to get rid of it now, as it has become naturalized. Okay, well, I'm going to keep striding towards breakfast. While we do that, let's go see where Steve is now.
Did you say breakfast? Oh no. Now all I can think about is breakfast. I had a whole sentence I was going to say. Gone. Vanished. Vanished. Coffee and breakfast is what is on the mind now. And all the talk of Tlalamba and all the animals eating whatever they're eating this morning. Now suddenly there is the desire for us to have some food. But we are going to do one more little loop around. We'll go on to the next road here. We're back onto Philemon's cut line, which is right in the heart of Djuma, the area where we often have tracks of Tingana, Hukumuri, Hosana. Thandi was in this drainage system for a very long time with Tlalamba before she got her name. And it was so amazing because daily we could come just here, 5 minutes from camp, and there we would have the beautiful cats in the drainage. And I was very fortunate to have spent a lot of time with them then. And since they've moved out to the east, I don't know, I still haven't seen them. This is a terrible state of affairs. And the other night when we were wanting to go find Thandi, I think it was the other evening, and there was reports that she was actually in the east in Torchwood on a kill, and so we didn't even attempt to try track her in the area we normally find her, and lo and behold, the landowners misnamed her. It was another cat. So we quite easily probably could have, not quite easily, but we could have spent more time in that area. Because when someone says someone is somewhere, then you go, okay, well, I'm not going to try for her where she normally is. But I suppose that is the thing, you know, a lot of people misidentify these cats. They don't have the fortune of having all of you, thousands of viewers at home, at a click of a button can tell us, no, that is this, that is that, or that is her. I know many viewers have corrected me in the past, and it does take time to get used to these names. Well, not really the names, but the ID. You know, James, Richard, and many of you out there are able to identify them from a mark on the back of the leg, or it's really incredible, the technology. So we're going to do link down here onto Pangolin Road, back around via Chelapan, onto Ingwe Alley, one last ditch effort for another cat. But someone who does have a leopard and has all morning. Let's go to Ralph.
What a wonderful sighting it has been. Thandi has taken that meat down onto the ground, and there was a little bit of cat and mouse between her and the cub just now. The Tlalamba just stalked her, and but Thandi wasn't that impressed. She just went back to the meat now, and she's now feeding again and giving Tlalamba a little bit of a hiss as she came nearby. But it's a shame she's just in the long grass. There's Tlalamba there in the branch, which she's now sleeping on. So I might just come up a little bit. I don't want to disturb either of them. There we are, coming round. Just move a little bit forward. I don't want to disturb them. Just a little bit more. And we can maybe get a view from here. How's that, Davy? Pangolin, absolutely. Once I get into a sighting like this, I'm not going to be going anywhere. And my job was very easy this morning indeed. I agree with you. But wow, this is why we do what we do, isn't it? This really is the cream of being a guide. Sitting with a female leopard and cub on a kill. And none other than Thandi and Tlalamba. Perfect. They could well still be here this afternoon. I think it might be Steve's or James's turn to come here then next. Our herbsman, that's an interesting question you've asked. I don't know of females mock mating with males to protect their young. That's something I didn't even think of. You know, the only mock mating that I know of is, in dominance, when even female dogs sort of do the whole mating sort of movement on other dogs, but it's just a dominance display. A lot of people, humans think it's totally weird, but it actually isn't. It's just a dominance display, getting the once over on a subordinate animal or trying to dominate another animal, whether you're male or female. That is a sort of a universal domination type movement with animals. So you very often get that kind of mock mating with females doing it with males, but I don't know of it happening with females potentially mating with males to protect their young. It doesn't really make sense, because if there are cubs around that aren't your own, you need to get rid of those cubs to stop the female lactating in order for you to sire your own cubs. So it's not the actual fact of mating, it's the offspring that are present, and then the cycle and the phase that the female is in her cycle, that is more important than the actual act of mating, if that answers your question. And this little cub, very playful, had a little bit of food. Now it's watching out for all the little dwarf mongoose. There was a little bird that flew in now. He was having a look. And Thandi's gone now. She's feeding some more. Jarasco, you are very welcome. I must say thank you to you, the viewers, for allowing me to stay here, because without you I wouldn't be able to do what I do. So at the end of the day, I need to thank everybody for allowing me to be able to do what I do once again. I often used to say that to my guests. They used to thank me and I used to thank them for coming on holiday so that I could guide them, because without them I wouldn't be out there doing exactly that. So I think it's a mutually beneficial relationship, everyone. I love being out here, and if I can bring you pictures like this, well, I'll keep enjoying it and keep sending through the visuals and putting through all the information that I know and all the knowledge that I can share and my experiences, etc. So we are heading just a little bit closer towards the end of our show now. Not too much longer to go. It's going to be interesting to see what happens now with between the drives, this afternoon's drive. I wonder if Thandi and Tlalamba are still going to be here this afternoon, or if a hyena is going to come in and steal this kill. I'm sure Thandi will have to take it back up into the tree, but that's the bush, that's the wild. We will just have to wait and see. Now, I want to thank everybody, from the wonderful cam ops to everybody in the FC, to Steve and Brent who were out on walk, but most importantly to all you, the viewers, for allowing us to do what we do. Join us again this afternoon, again for Safari Live. See you later, everyone. Have a nice day, evening, morning, wherever you are.